Hey there, welcome to episode 94 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, recording this at 11:39 a.m. on Friday the 13th. That is December 13, 2024. Hopefully nothing bad happens during this recording. Fingers crossed. Today's episode is Do You AI? Question mark. Well, do you? If you are not familiar with Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, it is a program about the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the Greater Vegas area. It would be great to have some guests to discuss those things, other entrepreneurs, people involved in the ecosystem on one side of it or another. There are probably more than two sides. We'll make that happen again. There were guests to talk about such things in the early days, in the episodes that start with 1, episode 10, 11, 12, I think, somewhere in there. A couple. We had a few guests. Cafe Genius Impresarios is inspired by Cafe Centro. That's with 2 F's, by the way. Cafe 2 F's in both Cafe Genius and Cafe Centro, which was a coffee shop in San Francisco. Yes, that one. It's where Jack Dorsey was developing Twitter before it became Twitter. Not that I'm a fan of Twitter in the Jack Dorsey days, nor the present times, but it is. It came to be known. There you go. Came to be known as the place where startups start, located in the lovely, tranquil South Park, very near what is now the AT&T ballpark. I think it's still the AT&T ballpark. Who knows? I don't keep track of such things. We have ballparks here to worry about. How many billions of dollars will they run over? Genius, as in the Genius Lunch we used to have in the Downtown Project days, and impresarios are people who are doing cool things, entrepreneurial, innovative, or both. Cafe Genius Impresarios. Here we are. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you have the episode description somewhere nearby. The summary of today's episode contained within the show notes within the episode description. And only 3 links today. 2, shameless self-promotion. 1, a nice overview on my favorite reference source, Wikipedia. Always a great place to begin your journey of learning. Rarely the place to end it. Today's summary: suppose you're an entrepreneur, maybe an innovator, maybe possibly both, and you want to make some progress in the Greater Vegas ecosystem, or anywhere really. Can you do it all yourself? Do you have co-founders and collaborators? Do you have the resources to hire help in the early days? Or perhaps you are making use of the latest craze, artificial intelligence. The links for today's episode, of course, the first 2, the usual buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. You do not need to spend any money at either of these. The buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page is sort of a free-form link tree. I have links to all of my audio projects, to my GitHub projects, to some other tidbits. There's a little bit of information about me at the top. At the very top of the profile page, or if you scroll all the way down, you will get to the posts. That's post with an S at the end. Posts. I don't know how the plosives and the whistling are coming through on the mic. It's probably horrible. Production by Street. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo posts is where you will find a weekly audio post only on Buy Me a Coffee. It's called Buy Me an Update. It seems to be running just over 4 minutes. I post it on Monday mornings. It's a look back at the week prior and what might be coming up the week of. So episode 2 went up this week. It's very early days. You can check that out there if you like. And I post a couple of text updates now and then to the Ko-fi site. So I'm trying to make those worth your visit. Worth pointing others to, so you can find my various audio programs. I do 4 per week so far. There might be another one. Artificial Intelligence Rundown on Wikipedia. It's a fairly decent sized article which gives you some background, some different types of artificial intelligence, approaches, algorithms, methodologies, and so on. They're all a little bit different. I've always been kind of fond of the classification abilities of artificial intelligence, image recognition, or classifying email, the naive Bayesian message filters. those are sort of the root of, those are the Stone Age artificial intelligence. But to be able to classify things and come up with a reasonable description, and doing this with images for the purposes of accessibility, so you can describe what's in an image using automation tools, that's a little bit more deep than classification. But to be able to recognize and take action based on what is recognized in images or in bodies of text and so on. Large language models are a little bit more complicated. They're sort of a statistical representation of the most likely words that would make sense given some inputs. I always wonder, especially lately, if artificial intelligence is purported to be reasoning and to be approaching artificial general intelligence to be able to solve problems and not be limited to one particular, image recognition or video creation or large language model, text generation, generative AI, building up images. There's all these little things. AGI will be able to do them all, maybe. But here's the question. If you can try this right now, launch your favorite image or text or whatever, your chat, GPT, I always say GTP, chat GPT, or what's the other one? Mid something, I cannot remember. DALL-E, Sora for video now, Llama, Devin, Copilot, whatever. Just pick something and wait for it to do something. You'll probably be waiting a long time. They're completely reactive. And that's the thing that will make me wonder. If we hit AGI, you shouldn't even have to launch the app. The app should be able to launch it and say, hey, Dan, for example, here's some things I'm doing for you today. I don't want to hear how are you today or things like this. It should know these things. That's what artificial general intelligence should be able to do for me before it takes over and makes me unnecessary. So, all that said, today's episode is really about what will people be doing in the greater Vegas area with AI, because from what I've heard, there's a focus on making the greater Vegas area an innovation hub around artificial intelligence. And with companies like TensorWave packing as many heat-generating, electricity-drawing AMD GPUs or TPUs or whatever they're calling the artificial intelligence processing for the purposes of training and whatnot. These are energy-hungry beasts, and if they're water-cooled, even better. We got plenty of extra water here in the desert. So I personally think this is aiming behind. You're not leading the target, you're firing behind it. I will ask this simple question and then we'll get into it. If you look back through the evolution of humans, I assume you are one. I pretend to be. Humans have been learning. They've been making their own large language models in their heads, and image recognition, and of course we have ballistics built in that ships with the version 1 product. But we've been doing this for how many generations? Thousands of years? At least a couple, at least 6,000. I think that's when China had some cool stuff going on with gunpowder and pasta and stuff. So thousands of years ago, probably longer. And before that, maybe not the language stuff, but, beings, organic life forms have been, especially the mammals, the birds, maybe the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs should have ducked. But the creatures have been analyzing their surroundings, reacting to them, evolving to react better to them, selection, rules, and so on. Darwin might have something to say about that. Dawkins might also. How come we were able to do this with so little? We did not have to consume the entire internet and then wonder, is there more? We didn't have to use all of the electricity. We didn't have to say, hey, can we turn that nuclear reactor back on? 3 Mile Island, it's just sitting there. 3 Mile Island, that might be enough for next week. Why are these technologies so energy hungry? Why are we not making them more efficient? Why are we not connecting those dots? One human uses a fraction of the energy. It might use more water. Human. But are we powering up nuclear reactors to power an elementary school so the kids learn how to read? No. So is artificial intelligence getting too big for itself? Or is it just that its code sucks and that human brains are, well, we already know they're vastly superior. They can do stuff faster, but they are not efficient. It's nuts. So let's maybe think about, Southern Nevada especially, Nevada leads the way in resource conservation, especially water. We are very water efficient because we don't have much. We should turn that sort of thinking towards the development of artificial intelligence models and how we train things and how these algorithms are applied. They should be much more efficient than they are. We are running into this full force without thinking, should we try to be a little bit, no efficiency for us? Okay, it's billionaire thinking. Something to think about. Okay, everybody, let's get the LLMs and Gen AI. We all have them already. If you haven't, you should get it. GPT, I always say it wrong. ChatGPT was a bit of a game changer, yes, and we could all try it out for free. I think they still have a free tier. I haven't touched ChatGPT in months, maybe a year. Then the subscription model with the free older version. Now, that was pretty neat, I suppose. Now with DALL-E image generation. I haven't used that in even longer that I know of. I'll get to that in a second. I did something similar for images, and there's been plenty of eye candy visualizations. Now weird video. This week, Sora from OpenAI has hit the pavement running a generated image of pavement, so it's not the sort of pavement you're used to seeing. Solid computer voices that sound pretty realistic. Computer don't talk. And emails you don't need to write anymore. You and your computer can email each other and leave you out of it. For my own needs, I do use Canva image generation now and then. I pay for it. For cover art for my audio programs, the ones you're listening to now. Not every week. I do produce 4 pieces of, now 5 with the Buy Me an Update. 5 pieces of cover art per week. And I'm going to say a little less than 1 per week. So maybe once every 2 weeks or so, I'll say, I can't really come up with an image or what I'm looking for. So I'll describe it, and whatever comes up, I'm like, that's not really what I was thinking, but it looks better than what I could make. So I kind of settle. And I have to wonder how often that happens. So I use Canva. I normally use the clip art approach. So I'll find some images that match what I'm thinking. I always try to put a picture of a microphone in there. So sometimes I'll put a historic microphone from the 50s or the 40s, the little suspended diaphragm in the ring, or something like that. So or sometimes a newer microphone, sometimes you get the idea. So these are clip art. I can put a picture of a race car or a television or a microphone or whatever. I can build up a scene in my little 1400 by 1400 pixel square, throw some text in there. Sometimes I'll Sometimes I'll upload an image that I've taken myself from my camera roll, and throw some text on there, maybe some little flourish decorations and whatnot, some effects. But it's mostly pretty simple because it's not intended to be the creative work. This is the creative work. So I just use the cover art is just something to look at amongst the millions of podcasts that are out there. Every now and then, generated image is okay, but they aren't always great. They're a little weird. We all know that you can't have them generate text for you. That just becomes a mess. So, now and then, but I mostly try to composite my own stuff. I do not use AI tools for code generation for programming projects, nor to write or respond to emails and whatnot. Now, your mileage may vary. Maybe you have managed to avoid writing anything for the last year. Maybe AI has been doing all of your correspondence and your shopping lists and your love notes and all that. Maybe you are using some form of AI tooling on the daily. These are that at this time, though. Tools. Are they going to take over the world? I'm not saying, but the current form, no. Again, if you're using ChatGPT or Midgard, is that what it is? Yeah. If it's smart, it should tell you stuff. It should come up with what to do without you prompting. Just imagine a 2-year-old child walking up to you. Suppose you double click on 2-year-old and one appears, and it looks at you and then immediately says no, and then it starts asking other questions like, why is this, that, and so on. Or it attempts to break things, or I don't know. I haven't been 2 in a long time, but probably these things. ChatGPT is not there yet. It is a parrot, is not an intelligence. Does your endeavor need artificial intelligence? I can see where some time could be saved if you need to put together maybe some ad copy, maybe write a press release, a marketing email, anything along the lines of business support. That is, you are not in the business of doing these things, but you need to do these things to advance your business. I say have at it. They're tools. You're using tools. You can use a pencil, an eraser. You can use a copy machine, a fax machine. You can use a computer with spell check. You can use AI to help with some labor-saving tasks to enable your business. That's what tools are for, to leverage human ability. That was the Steve Jobs take on the bicycle of the mind. You will always certainly need to review the words, the images, the audio, the video. If you make any video, it will almost certainly need a few passes, even with the latest release of Sora this week from OpenAI, that I've heard nothing but horror stories about how well it works. Are you building a business around the written word, maybe blogging or publishing books, maybe turning those into AI voiced audiobooks? Around music or imagery, like graphic illustration or photography or anything where AI can do your work for you? This seems more problematic in my opinion, not only because you are not doing the work you're charging for, maybe that keeps you up half the night. You're getting paid for, but most of these toys we all like playing with are trained on the work of others, often without their having agreed to use this particular use of their work, certainly not getting paid for it. So your work is their work, and only your AI platform gets paid, not the source of the training material. Maybe you get paid for your work, which is not really your work at that point. Now, if you're using it as a tool, maybe it's something that could keep you up the other half of the night to worry about this. Like, am I using the pencil and the eraser and the AI tools equally to enable what I'm really trying to accomplish, or am I letting these things do the work for me? That's maybe for you to decide. But I personally like to know how to write. I don't want to forget how to form sentences. I don't have any innate graphical abilities. I'm not talented in the way of artistic creativity. I have no aesthetic sense in that regard either. I kind of know what I want to end up with, but I don't know how to get there usually. But I'm not an artist. I'm not a graphic illustrator. I'm not a photographer. I can take some nice pictures. But if I find myself as a coder thinking, I could just have some AI write this code for me, the problem is I won't understand what it wrote, so I'll have to look through it anyway. So now I'm just doing debugging of some other work that a computer did that is based on the work of other people who are not getting any credit for their work. So to me, I'd rather keep what few skills I have left sharp and use them. So are you telling your customers, your clients, your colleagues how much of your work is yours, or that of your employees or vendors or other outside talent, of course? If you take credit for the work of others, whether you're paying them, well, I guess that's sort of work for hire. That's sort of how that works. But if you take credit as though it is yours, and it's actually by some unsuspecting artist or writer, blogger out in the world somewhere, well, how much is coming from this mysterious source somewhere in the sky? And you don't mind the random word choices or the lack of sincerity, maybe a few extra fingers, not to mention the ethical concerns. Well, you get the idea. So that's where I come down on this. But those things considered, what can AI do in Vegas? Now, these are just ideas. This is not a comprehensive list. It's not authoritative. I'm not telling you. I'm throwing some ideas out. I've been thinking about this for a bit. It may be interesting to work with clients, generate marketing materials, reply to emails, and so on with these AI tools. Hopefully you are indeed, who writes these notes? I'm going to fire that guy immediately. I'm going to see him in the mirror later. Hopefully you are indeed treating them as tools and not as replacements for work by you or other humans. We are not there yet. I promise you we're not there yet. But the greater Vegas area, the greater Vegas area draws an awful lot of visitors each year. The numbers published look like the expected 40 million or so annual run rate might get in there, but we also see in the news, the local news lately, that tourism is down, or maybe just casino profits are down. So we'll see what the final wrap-up is. I don't know if I totally trust the LVCVA. Anyway, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, from which these numbers may be obtained. LVCVA.com. I've linked to them many times in previous episodes. What can we do with that? We have almost, we'll call it 40 million, but it could be That could be wrong. But what can we do with so many people visiting? We know that there are a lot of interesting things going on here in Vegas, whether in fixed structures like casinos and restaurants and bars and hikes. Maybe that's not a fixed structure so much, but nature, mountains, passes, paths. Where am I? Okay. And other fun stuff. Got lost in the moment. But the ever-changing entertainment and event landscape as well, which can be hard to keep track of, especially if there is any sort of spontaneity involved. If you find yourself in Vegas and you weren't a moment ago, wow, that's weird. Hey, let's go do something. What do we want to do? And then you're just going to go, I don't know, wander on the strip and then just randomly, okay. But there's a lot of stuff to do here in Vegas, I promise. And finding it is sometimes, well, discovery is always a problem. It's a universal problem in humanity, and there's only more stuff to discover, and we're not good at it. Add to this chaos that some people visiting the Vegas area are, for any number of reasons, by the way. They could be here for trade shows or just to visit, on vacation, see the sights, for a trade show, for a particular entertainment event, to gamble, to watch the Formula One race cars. Not as many people this year, maybe. They're not necessarily native speakers of American English. And while many can get by, I mean, English is kind of common and pretty simple. It was designed, by the way, to be a very simple version of the source of English, the British English. So when they were coming up with this goofball amalgamation of English and then other languages from the various people who enabled the formation of the colonies and then the country, there was a simplification to make English a little bit more accessible. So it is somewhat accessible. People say it's one of the hardest languages, but you have so many options. There's too many ways to say, pick a word, I don't know, pizza. But because of that, you're able to actually communicate because you're going to get close. And the person you're talking to will probably figure out what you're trying to say. And we're not a tonal language, so it's a little bit easier. But automated translation was passable for decades, or for a decade. Before AI really entered our daily discussion. And when I say that, I mean whatever they were using, whatever algorithms for the passable version of Translate.Google and other services like that. They may have been using some rudimentary AI to come up with best word choices, but those were early days, so things have come quite a long way recently. So before we had AI coming out of every headline, we could interact with our visitors to some extent with something closer to their own language by translating written word. At the time, written word was a lot easier from one language to another. So if you have English source language. Now, fun fact, the greater Vegas area, thanks to census information, basically caters to the top two, English, Spanish, in that order. I believe number 3 is Tagalog, a language spoken in the Philippines. And after that, I'm not quite sure. But the fact is, looking at the people who live here is not the same as looking at Clark County. Clark County has about 2.3 or 2.4 million people. That's very, very nice to know. But when 40 million people are visiting an area over the course of a year, they could speak many languages. There's a greater variety than 2. So we can solve that problem. And now with the advent of reasonably high quality AI-generated voices, sometimes they pronounce words correctly, which is convenient. But we can translate, we can use voice recognition to hear someone ask a question or say something in their language. We can translate it. We can find an answer. We can translate it into something that they can use. All this is possible. And we can do it, if we can talk to people in something closer to their own language, that seems like a win for a destination city such as Las Vegas, where people come from so far and so wide. So let's toss some ideas around. Do I have water? Ooh, I have water. That's good. My voice gets really dried out now when I'm talking. So let's toss some ideas around. First of all, there are already a lot of disjoint tools to attempt to help people visiting or hanging out in Las Vegas, helping them to get around, have a nice time, maybe stay out of trouble, or maybe stay in trouble, get in trouble, stay there. Can this information be used ethically? In other words, there are so many resources available that make a stab at trying to help people. I call it the the embarrassment of riches. That's not my term, but it's one that's commonly used. There are so many things to do and so many ways to find out about things to do. And there's only more. So many content creators creating Instagram reels that don't have proper links because Instagram breaks the internet, so on and so on. Yes, they have links, but it's not the same, not nearly as usable. So yeah, how could you take all this vast array of different types of useful, sometimes, information and form it into something that can be consumed by someone who may not speak English or who may not be familiar with the area? I'd really like to go get that donut, but I don't know what it's saying. I don't know what the words are. I don't know what's going on in this Instagram reel, right? So how can you make the experience of a visitor here better using artificial intelligence? You don't need to send them a generated email. If you can get them pretty close to, oh, okay, this is the thing, and explain in their language and so on, that might be nice. Suppose you train your models on the data we have locally to build a Vegas expert of sorts, but you mostly point people to specific web pages or content creators to answer the questions or make suggestions for meals or entertainment or whatever they might be looking for, whether they know it themselves or not. So now, instead of saying, well, you just got to follow the correct 400 people on Instagram and then hope that you find something thanks to their algorithm, if there was a way to say, I'm looking for the Dubai donut, and it says, oh, there are at least 2 places to go, and here's some Instagram videos, here's links, here's maps, whatever. You could come up with a solution. You can, using RAG or whatever, but you essentially have this notion of what's going on in Vegas based on the people who live here, and who, by the way, are sometimes paid by LVCVA, but are generally in the business of creating this content to engage people with this helpful information. So you're kind of making use of those tools. And if you can do it ethically so that they become a part of the economy that comes of this, then that might be fair. And of course, if they want to opt out, they should be able to. Here are a few things I have in mind, just throwing them out. Not really spent too much time architecting these, just coming up with a couple of spitball ideas on the old whiteboard. A helpful chatbot to help out, because it's helpful, with getting around. Google Maps is okay, but not always as useful as it could be. I myself have helped people. Did that come out right? By pointing, not trying to speak, by pointing at Google Maps or at signs or other, helpful visual aids, visualizations, pictures of things, if they have a flyer or something, pointing at while we try to bridge English and say Japanese or Polish or German and a few other languages. So these are people sometimes sitting at a bus stop, and the bus application from Transit in Montreal, Transit app, don't even get me started on that. So people are sort of looking a little bit sheepish, as in, hey, can you just point me in the right direction, please? Bonus points if it's a location-aware application that you can come up with to help people. Everybody has a phone now. If they visit Vegas, you got to have some sort of mobile device. So if it can be location aware and point them and then be helpful, almost like when you take a tour of a museum, or some places they'll give you the audio tour and you're listening to a tape recorder. Remember those back in the day? I think we took the audio tour of Alcatraz. That was kind of fun. You could almost hear Clint Eastwood talking. And then there are more bonus points if you can use a camera for image description. So if you could hold up a camera, take a picture, or not take a picture, and have it describe what it's seeing. Now, this is probably already a product, but I don't know that it would be localized and based on local reference information. You could actually, if you point a camera, your mobile phone camera, at Circa downtown or at Resorts World or something, you might get the latest Norma Helly video or Raised in Vegas or Las Vegas Phil or something about a restaurant that just opened, or, there could be all kinds of stuff that someone who doesn't speak the language or doesn't know who to follow, or is just a visitor here, they didn't hunt down those correct 400 people to follow. They still have access to that and in context. That's what AI should be doing for us, right? Not writing emails that we should be writing, or code. An itinerary suggestion machine that starts with visitors' interests. Again, no shortage of things to do. And it often depends on not only on that day, like what day is it, but what time. Someone might want to go check out some interestingness. We don't always know what we want, so drilling down based on suggestions, missed or learned from others, and coming up with some possibilities, who knows? That could be interesting. Now, this would be very individualized or coupleized. So it'd be like, what should we do? We just got here. We checked into our room. What should we go check out? What should we go eat for lunch? Did you hear that emergency vehicle? Production by street. This would be an opportunity to connect with returning visitors, to develop more of an interest profile for better suggestions. So you kind of mix what others are kind of thumbs up, thumbs down if you're a TiVo fan. Like, hey, that's a good idea. Or, hey, that was a good suggestion. Things like this. So, again, just throwing some ideas out there. So this is really about what should we do? We just got here. What should we do? What should we do this evening? So it's really about sort of a 1 or 2 or 3 people, right? Maybe it's a family visit. And that's up to you, but you could keep this information and their identity separate. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. You don't need to start sending their private personal interests out to marketing companies. There is a web app out there. I will not tell you where because it's sort of silly, but it makes use of a mobile device GPS location or maybe an address entered, consults the official administrative boundaries in the city open data datasets, and will tell anyone who asks. So you can look on your phone and say, am I in Vegas? And it will tell you if you are in Las Vegas. Fun fact, if you are in Las Vegas, you might not be. The Welcome to Las Vegas sign, the Las Vegas airport, not in Las Vegas, etc. City of Las Vegas, the southern boundary is approximately Charleston, depending on where you are along Charleston. So north of Charleston, look for the stratosphere. That's kind of where Charleston is. So north of that, you might be in Las Vegas. South of that, you probably aren't. So this app is silly, right? But it's not always an easy question to answer for visitors. But suppose they could also learn more about a particular regulations like open containers, other indulgences based on the county or the city statutes and whatnot. Hey, I'm on Fremont Street. Can I walk around with an open container? Well, over there maybe, and over there no, etc. So there are a few other things that maybe they would fit into our fun economy. Maybe just throwing these out there. Make some guesses about where someone might be if they wander off. This is not about kidnapping or human trafficking. Those are real problems. Those are real serious matters. But every once in a while, a friend will have 1 or 3 too many and get separated from the group. So some AI to match a face or other identifying features, or maybe would make some guesses about last known location and where. So what you do is you gather information about where people tend to go when they've had 3 too many, and what draws people in when they're a little fuzzy. And it's like finding missing pets. You get separated from the group and you're like, oh, where'd they go? Door people, security folks could take a picture if they don't have their ID on them. Those things can sometimes get lost or misplaced during the evening. And now there are better ways to do this that are more direct. QR code tattoos, temporary or permanent. But if you could do a quick facial or other, take a picture of somebody that says, hey, that's Bob. Bob is missing. His friends are looking for him, and put them all together. That might be kind of fun. So door workers, I don't want to say doormen, but people at the door of some establishments, the bouncers inside, and other fun economy enablers might come in handy to put the band back together. It could be useful. Sometimes people visit Vegas with friends. Sometimes they come to meet a new friend or 2 or more. Why not put some artificial intelligence to work, not to connect individuals, but to steer people so inclined into proximity in public places? Like, hey, there's where people are hanging out tonight in your general age group and interests, mutual interests, right? In other words, where could someone go to meet an interesting someone else who might find them interesting? Mutually assured dysfunction. This is still Vegas after all, so that's what AI should be doing in Vegas. How about AI crawls? Now, I said earlier directing 1 or 2 or 3 people on an itinerary, but what if it's like a group? What if you've got the bachelor party or the hen party or the reunion or the workers, the colleagues that are in town for a trade show? Like, hey, what should we do tonight? Well, we've collected all of our interests or food limitations or whatever. Here are 25 different things that we're going to do tonight. Maybe more like 5 or 6, but like an interesting path, an interesting sampling. It's almost like a tasting menu that could be constructed with the interest or consideration of the people in the party. I'm not saying you would snap your fingers and this would just happen magically unless a Copilot or Devin write that for you, but it would be interesting. It would be tricky, but we could start small with a bar crawl. That's the classic. But where might that lead? So a bar crawl, you could literally say, is anybody here allergic to juniper berries, for example? These are the sorts of things where you could come up with an itinerary for an evening crawl that might not, hey, nobody here drinks. Okay, let's go restaurants, or let's go coffee shop crawl or something like this. Possibilities are endless. Vegas is a really interesting place when you have a plan that can come together. So these are just some random thoughts. It is easy to focus on AI to build image generators, large language models, voice recognition, and conversational synthetic voices, image recognition. These are features of artificial intelligence tools like Legos or Lincoln Logs. Consider building something with these toys rather than just generating text or images all day. Hey, look, ChatGPT wrote my email for me. Okay, go outside and play now. Asking your phone questions can be fun. Hey, computer activation word. Yeah, I know. Hey, the thing just said good afternoon to me. You can assemble these toys and do fun things, I suppose, and talk to your phone all day, but maybe more fun if you're wandering around Vegas and ask it questions then, see what it comes up with. It should have a source of information that is not scraping pages all day, but call it curated training materials. You can start there. What I would absolutely avoid if I were you, and if I'm me, which I mostly am, is anything that replaces a person in the service or hospitality industries or entertainment in general. Bands, comedians, poets, jugglers, mimes. No robot bartenders, no kiosks replacing waitstaff, no mechanized carts roaming the halls of our lovely resorts and hotels. Basically, if AI tools and methods can improve the visitor experience, can augment the fun economy, great. I just gave a bunch of silly examples that may not be so silly, who knows? If you are replacing humans and turning the visitor experience into interaction with algorithms instead of other human beings, might I suggest you reconsider your plans from the point of view not only of the visitor, but of the workers, plural, you might be displacing. The fun economy should be fun, but if you push people out, if you displace, if you price people out of being a part of it when they've been the ones who made it happen all these years. And fun fact, this happened during the pandemic when rents went up 25 to 40%. Some people couldn't afford to be here anymore and they didn't really come back. Some did. Try not to do that. Elevate the economy, elevate the experience not only of the visitors, but the people who make it go. Put AI to work in innovative ways to make for better times, and we might just be able to maintain a level of employment and job satisfaction by building our fun economy, not automating it out of reach of the people who make it happen. So there you go. Whenever you hear people say, oh yes, automation will free up time so that people don't have to work as much. Well, let me ask you this, rocket scientist. If people are not working, they're not doing something to make money, whatever that might be. They're not doing that anymore because robots are doing it for them. Automation. How are they going to buy stuff? You got robots making cars, making food, making drinks, whatever, right? If you automate everything, who's going to have money to buy those things? Has anyone thought that through? I don't think so. So when people come to Vegas, they should have a good time. They should interact with other people. Nobody wants to talk to your robot bartender. It's fun. You can, look, the robot arm is making me a drink. But they're not good conversationalists. If you're going to a bar to watch a robot arm mix you a drink, get yourself a robot arm and stay home. It's almost like tipping, which is another topic entirely that's gotten out of hand. But let's continue to interact with humans and make the fun economy fun again. Is that a hat? Should I make a hat for that? I don't know. That's where I'm going to leave today's episode. It's 43 minutes by my clock. It'll probably drop down to closer to 39. I'm going to guess 39 minutes or so with silence truncated, which I do with all my episodes, so you don't get the long pauses. I will occasionally pause to get some water, which I'm going to do right now. Don't forget to check out the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo posts, which is linked directly at the top of the profile page if you visit that buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo profile page. That's where you land when you get there. There's a link to the posts section, or you can scroll all the way down. That's almost exactly what it says. You can find the latest edition of Buy Me an Update. You can visit ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo for other updates in textual form, unless I put more stuff in there. Always a work in progress. And with that, I thank you. I'm going to go do some more manual labor, set aside these AI notions, and see what happens. Thank you. Till next time.